Welcome, everybody, to the College Financial and Merit Aid educational webinar. My name's David Haas, and I am a certified financial planner. And I usually do this webinar with my partner, Mike Dunn, but he happens to be away. So today you just get me and no lively banter. I just have to, um, make up for the fact that Mike is not here. So first of all, a little bit about Cereus Financial Advisors. It was founded in 2015, located in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. We help clients with education planning, retirement planning, investment management. We are registered in New Jersey and New York, although we do work with clients in other states. And as a registered investment advisory firm, one important thing to realize is that by law, we have to be fiduciaries with our clients, which means our advice is always in your best interest. And we disclose any conflicts of interest. So two advisors, Mike and myself, and we are the home of College Money Match, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. A little bit about myself. I founded Cereus Financial Advisors in 2015. I actually started off my working life as an electrical engineer and software engineer. In fact, I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering with a minor in economics. And then I went back and got an MBA in finance, as well as the certified financial planner mark, which I took at Fairleigh Dickinson, where I got a certificate in financial planning as well. I happen to be the current education director of the Financial Planning Association of New Jersey. And I think I mentioned some of the other stuff already. I put my own two children through college, Gettysburg and Syracuse. Mike put his two children through college, and in fact, both of his kids, who were a little bit more dedicated to education than mine, have gone on to graduate school, with one of his daughters actually in her residency for a medical degree. College is one of the largest costs in your lifetime. Here are some examples. The price of a Honda CR-V is now about $35,000, a CR-V hybrid. I happen to have bought one in 2021, so this was interesting to me. It's probably already gone up in value. A town nearby here with some more modest homes, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Waldwick, New Jersey, $430,000. The list price of 4 years at NYU is $339,308. So just by comparison, the price of 4 years at the College of New Jersey is $153,796. I happen to have picked that one. Actually, SUNY schools are a little bit cheaper than that. So I know we have a lot of folks from New York, and this presentation might be a little bit New Jersey centric, but I will throw New York facts in there as well. So why is college so expensive? It's actually not because of the education. An interesting study by the Lumina Foundation found that it cost $14,000, and this was admittedly a few years ago in 2014, to educate a student at a public university. It's not really because of the highly paid administrators, although we hear about them all the time. I think, many college administrators are now earning more than $1 million a year. just like CEOs. Of course, they do have a lot of responsibilities, and we do want to attract the best people, but not every college is paying that much. But that's not really the reason. It's not because of great food or the lazy river. Somebody is saying, Cindy is saying that she can't hear me. Can everybody else hear me? I hope. So Sharon can hear me. Cindy, I'm not sure what's going on, but maybe it's on your side because a lot of the other people can hear me. So I'm going to go on. Maybe try going out and coming back in again. College is actually so expensive because some people are willing to pay that much. So there are people who pay the list price. Many foreign students pay the list price, but many other students pay the list price as well. According to NACUBO, which is the National Association of College and University Business Offices, I believe that's what that stands for, 89% of students at private colleges get some sort of financial aid. And that was 2019 to 2020. Actually, I came across this slide just a week or so ago, and it was another presentation from JP Morgan Asset Management. They happen to provide some 529 plans, college savings plans. According to them, 50% of families are receiving grants for needs-based aid at college. But the average amount was $4,914 and has actually gone down 19% since last year. The scholarship, which is merit aid, 56% of families receive scholarships, some kind of merit aid scholarship. The average is $7,355, but that has gone down 7% since last year. So unfortunately, aid and merit scholarships are not really keeping up with college costs, and that's a serious issue. So what's the college financial gain? Very high listed cost, which we talked about. The needy families who can demonstrate need, which I will talk about, they get a discount for their need. And students who the colleges want to attract, usually for academic reasons, but sometimes for other reasons, get a discount. And then you end up with a net price. It's kind of similar to airline pricing. Every student is going to be paying a different price. Jessica, we will follow up with the presentation, and there will hopefully be a recording. Doesn't always work, but I'm trying to take a recording of this, so that should be available as well. So what are the discounts to the college list price? We talked about the financial aid. That's needs-based. It's mainly driven by formulas. Merit aid is the other way, and that is really a discount based on the desirability of the student and or the parents. We're going to talk about the needs-based aid first. So how much you can afford is called expected family contribution. The college's idea of what you can afford to pay, your expected family contribution, and your idea are unlikely to be the same. Also, colleges do not meet 100% of need. So as an example, University of Rochester, the COA, that's the cost of attendance, that's that top price, is $81,875. The college says that it meets 97% of need, and when it meets that need, 93% is in grants. That is actually pretty good. University of Rochester is pretty generous, although it is also an extremely expensive school. The Ivies are the most generous because they have these huge endowments. So they actually meet 100% of need. And I think most of that, maybe 100% of it, is in grants. Just as an example, I happen to know this because I was working with somebody on it. Rowan University, which is a public university in New Jersey, only meets, I believe it's 61% of need. And of that 61%, it also only meets partially in grants. The rest would be loans or work study. I think the SUNY schools are a little bit more generous, and then there's the Excelsior Scholarship, but the Excelsior Scholarship sounds great, but unfortunately doesn't really provide a lot of aid. So, which I can talk about a little bit later. So the aid, financial aid, can be in the form of grants, which is money that you don't have to pay back. It can be in the form of loans, which is money that you do have to pay back, and in the form of work study. And of course, work study is relatively low waged, so there's not really a lot there. The aid is available from the federal government, state government, and the school. So the federal government, it's primarily in the form of Pell Grants, which really haven't gone up in many years. The state government has their own grant system, and then the school themselves, particularly the private schools, do have their own pools of aid. The other thing about needs-based aid is that you apply for it every year. So it's not just freshman year. You have to fill out the forms every year if you expect to get aid. There are 3 calculation methods. Well, actually a little bit more. First of all, there's the federal method. So the federal method uses the information that's entered on the FAFSA form, the free application for student aid, I think it is. I always forget because I just call it the FAFSA. The information entered in the FAFSA determines the expected family contribution. The FAFSA does not count IRAs or 401ks. Basically, it doesn't count retirement savings. It doesn't count the home that you live in if you own your home. So it doesn't count your home equity. It would count a vacation home or an investment property. And they're not going to ask any questions about a business with less than 100 employees. So if you own a small business, the value of that small business is not counted for your financial aid. Who uses the FAFSA? It's mainly the public universities, the SUNY schools, the Rutgers, Rowan, and some private schools also just use the FAFSA. But many private schools use another method called the institutional method. So the institutional method, you have to fill out a form from the College Scholarship Service. Basically, that's the college board, the same folks who provide the SAT. You have to fill out the CSS form. The CSS form has a certain core portion, but then each institution is allowed to have some of their own questions. They do vary with the types of questions that the colleges ask. And it's called the institutional method because every institution can have a slightly different method for deciding what the aid is. They will usually ask questions about your retirement savings. They do count some of that. So if you're trying to avoid or you're trying to game the system by putting huge amounts into retirement accounts or annuities, there are some insurance salesmen and financial advisors who say, just buy these annuities and it will hide hide the assets? Well, it's usually not an asset problem. It's usually an income problem. And the annuities may or may not be something that you actually need. And for the private schools, it's not going to matter anyway. They also look at your home equity, and if you have a small business, they will be asking questions about your small business, including how much it's worth. They don't make you go out and get an appraisal. Basically, they're asking you for how much you think it's worth. They will be asking you what your revenues are. And last but not least, there's the consensus method. That's used by the Ivies and certain other highly selective schools. And again, it uses the CSS form. But the reason why it's called the consensus method is that those schools have all decided to use the same methodology. They do use home equity, but they don't use all of it. They only count a portion of it. And actually, I forgot how much that is. I would have to look it up. So let's talk about calculating the EFC. This is the federal method, the FAFSA method. So it counts between 22 and 47% of parent income towards college. So there's a certain amount of income that is assumed that you need for living. The more income you make, the more it counts. That's why it's a sliding scale. It counts a lot, or it counts student income a lot. 50% of student income over $7,040. So the idea is if your student is working, the assumption is that they are working in order to pay for college. Only 5.64% of parent assets are counted for the expected family contribution. So that's important. Many people try, are so worried about how to hide their assets, thinking that they're going to get aid. And really, it's an income problem for the aid, not an asset problem. The other thing I'd like to point out is a major mistake that I have seen over and over again with parents filling out the FAFSA form is that they make the FAFSA form they make the 529 plans that they might have a student asset instead of a parent asset. A 529 plan where the parent is a custodian, or a what's called a UTMA 529 plan that actually really belongs to the student. In either case, it's counted as a parent asset and needs to be entered as a parent asset in the FAFSA form. If a grandparent is the custodian, you actually don't count it at all, interestingly enough. So your savings, you're not penalized that much for saving for college. Let's put it that way. So families with divorced parents, the rules are changing, which I'll talk a little more about later. But for the 2023-2024 college year, it's the custodial parent that matters. So that's the parent. So that's the FAFSA form that you'll be filling out this fall. If your student is a junior today and going to be a senior in high school next year, or if you happen to be a senior now, I don't know if there are any folks in there whose kids are graduating. You probably know all this already because you will have already had to have filled out the FAFSA form. But it's the custodial parent. Who's the custodial parent? Well, theoretically, it's the parent that the child has lived with the majority of the year. So that's 181 days or more. That's the custodial parent. If you have joint custody, it's a place you can play some games, I guess, because no one's hanging out on the street looking at where your child has slept. It has nothing to do with who declared the child on the tax return. So the FAFSA is not connected with the idea of the tax return for who declared the child. They are changing this, however. So starting the next year, for the 2024 to 2025 college year, it will always be the higher earning parent. So no more games. It'll always be the higher earning parent. What happens if the parent is absent and is not going to participate? I'm really not sure what's going to happen. We shall see. They haven't released the forms. We don't know. So for the institutional and consensus schools, they already will look at both parents. And I think they have some forms where you can declare that one parent is essentially absent and is not responding. But since they don't have to follow the new rule of the higher earning parent, the institutional and consensus schools can do what they want. They already look at both parents. If one parent is absent, I think they only really count the other parent. So now we'll talk about merit aid. So merit aid is really a discount. And why do colleges discount? Well, they want students. They have demographic goals. And the demographics I'm really talking about the most is they want students at the high end of their academic performance target. So if you score well in the standardized tests or have high GPA compared to what the college's target is, then you are much more likely to get aid. Many colleges have created honor schools just to attract those students. So they combine aid with being in an honor school, which often means separate dorms, maybe separate meal service, maybe some separate activities, but the classes are pretty much the same. They're interested in students who are active contributors, leadership positions, clubs or activities, sports or music achievement, nonprofit leadership, everything that makes a student attractive for admission also makes the student attractive for merit aid. And another factor is geographic goals. So particularly the more elite private colleges, they want a geographically diverse student body. So if you're applying to schools in the Midwest or the West from the East Coast, or the South from the East Coast, some schools are more likely to give you aid, not all of them. And then by major as well. So if you're applying to a major, which is, just to make a joke, a more minor factor at the school, maybe a new major or one that the school only has a few students for instance, an English major at an engineering school, just as an example, you might be more likely to get a discount. And then last but not least, demonstrated interest to the college. The college tracks every interaction you have. If you go or the student talks to an admissions counselor and takes a tour at the school, it's tracked. But if you sign up for webinars or virtual tours online, it's also tracked. If you are demonstrating a lot of interest to the college, you are, in some cases, more likely to get aid. So another fact about merit aid is that you can bargain once you get accepted. So this is the appeals process. Acceptances are usually, they can be rolling with rolling admissions, but by April First, all the acceptances should be in. You're supposed to commit to the school by May 1st. You can write that appeal letter basically as soon as you get your financial aid package. Sometimes it's much earlier than April 1st. You have to have a reason for appeal. Although with COVID, appeals have been more successful, even with pretty poor reasons. But usually it's something's changed. If you're getting needs-based aid, maybe a parent lost a job that's not apparent on the financial aid forms. That would be an important factor. Or maybe there was a medical emergency that has drained a lot of savings. Again, that is a very good reason to appeal the needs-based aid. For the merit aid, you can bargain based on another offer. So you do need a comparable school. Don't try bargaining Harvard with, I'm just going to blindly pick Marist. By the way, I love both schools. Marist is a wonderful school, but it's not in Harvard's league, and Harvard knows it. So you're not going to gain very much by trying that bargain. But and actually, Harvard is a bad example because the Ivies actually don't really give merit aid. They only give needs-based aid. So if we're talking about merit aid, we're talking about a very good non-Ivy. Maybe an NYU. Okay, the other thing is that unlike financial aid, merit aid is usually renewed automatically. So a student might have to meet some minimum goals, like a 3.0 or better average, but you don't have to keep filling out the forms the way you do with the financial aid. I can't emphasize this enough. You need a budget ahead of time. College is a financial commitment for at least 4 years. In fact, Rutgers, New Brunswick had a 66.8% four-year graduation rate, and that was in 2020. So what does that mean? Well, it means some students might be taking longer. It means some students drop out. It is true that public colleges and universities are more likely to have students that might not complete in 4 years, but every school has that for one reason or another. So you certainly want to think about the financial commitment for multiple years. You do not want $100,000 plus of debt for your degree. So you want to have a budget based on what a parent can provide, what savings have occurred, and then looking at aid and other forms of discount. It is very important to have the student part of the financial process from day one. Instead of NYU, I'm gonna pick on Northeastern. Maybe your student is very, very into Northeastern. It's a wonderful school. She fell in love with it. And the truth is, you're not getting a good financial deal from Northeastern. That student is going to be really, really mad at their parents. You know how teenagers can get. If they find out, just before the commitment date that you can't afford Northeastern. The financial part of it needs to be part of the decision-making from day one. The truth is, nowadays, your student cannot afford to go to any college they want unless you saved up enough money for them or make enough money that is possible. I see that there are a few questions in the chat. I will get to those questions at the end, but I want to kind of power through this. So let's talk a little bit about loans. So the best loans to take are the federal student loans. Hot off the presses, they just set the interest rates. They set them June 1st of every year. And new loans are going to be at 4.99%. Considering that federal student loans are actually unsecured loans, 4.99%, and with the way interest rates are is actually pretty decent rate. There are two types. There are subsidized loans and there are unsubsidized loans. So these are often called federal direct student loans or Stafford loans. The subsidized loans simply mean that the interest doesn't accrue while they're in school and for 6 months after that. The unsubsidized loans, interest accrues from day one, but is deferred. Interestingly, with COVID, currently, all federal direct student loans, the interest is not accruing and you don't have to make payments. And they keep on putting off the payment restart. I believe it's now supposed to be August 1st. So, you're likely to be in the situation where if you have unsubsidized loans, interest will accrue. So there's a maximum for student loans. For freshmen, federal direct loan is the max is $5,500, and you can take a maximum of $31,000 over the undergraduate degree. So this is the student as the borrower. And these loans are eligible for income-driven repayment plans, discharge and disability or death, and certain loan forgiveness programs like the public service loan forgiveness programs. These are also the loans they are now talking about doing a one-time forgiveness for loans. These are the loans they're talking about. But so far, there really hasn't been details provided. One very important thing to realize is that if you want to take out a federal student loan, you must fill out the FAFSA. The loans are available through the student aid office at the college, and you have to have filled out the FAFSA. So even if you know you're not going to get any needs-based aid, you still have to fill out the darn FAFSA to get access to these federal direct loans. Another option is the Federal Parent Plus loans. So these are a much higher interest rate, 7.5%. They are completely dependent on your credit score. They are not dependent on your income. They don't check your income. And there's no maximum to the amount of loans that you can take out. What does this mean? It's really easy to get into trouble. Parents, I know you want to send your child to college, but are they your retirement plan? If they are not your retirement plan, you really need to plan out any loans you take here very carefully. These loans are eligible for income-driven repayment plans if they are consolidated. They can be discharged on disability and death of the student and or the parent, I believe. And they are now eligible for public service loan forgiveness if they've been consolidated, which if you have questions about that, I can answer those offline. Federal student loans are often not discharged in bankruptcy, so that's an important point. They're really only discharged when there's no hope of collection. So permanent disability, yes. If you just go bankrupt because you're overextended and you can continue to work, no, those loans are going to stick around. New Jersey has a great student loan program. New York does not have any student loan program. So for folks in New Jersey, or if you have an out-of-state student who goes to a New Jersey college, so it's for students who go to a New Jersey college or New Jersey students who go to any college. And students or parents can be the borrower. There is income verification for these loans. They do have some income contingent repayment plans, They can be discharged on death or disability. So they're pretty decent if you need loans above and beyond the federal direct loans. Connecticut and Pennsylvania also have state loan programs. I think Connecticut's is interesting, maybe okay. Pennsylvania is just a public version of a private loan. So private student loans are the next thing to talk about. The rates vary. These are private lenders, SoFi, Sallie Mae, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, I think. They all make these loans, and there are others. The student is the borrower with a cosigner. There's a credit check and income verification. These loans are starting to be set up to be discharged on death or disability of the student, but you really have to check the terms because they do vary. Other places you can get money, home equity. There are other forms of borrowing. I'm not keen on that idea. Same thing, 401k plan borrowing, $50,000. You're essentially borrowing from your retirement. Not personally not thrilled with that either, but it's an option. So I'll say again, college choice is very important. More prestigious colleges will give fewer discounts. As I said, the Ivies actually don't give any merit scholarships. The other point I'd like to make is that financial aid and merit aid are actually predictable. So this is not really a black box. And that's part of what we do with College Money Match. The colleges do publish information, and we've collected information from past applicants. And it does vary from year to year and college to college. So when we're predicting on what happened in the past, sometimes the future can be different. But it's a pretty good tool to figure out what you might get before you apply. And I mentioned this before, you really got to think about applying to schools that you can use for bargaining. And one way to do that is to use College Money Match to see what schools might provide. Another point is how you apply is important. So early decision is being less emphasized, but the colleges still love it because it is theoretically binding. Well, if you've applied and you're telling them, if I get in, I'm going to go, I'm committing to going. Yeah, sure, they're more likely to let you in, but what's the benefit to them to give you more money? There's no real incentive for the school to give you more money. So I'm not thrilled with early decision. Early action that's not binding, rolling admissions not binding, those are great. I will point out that even though they say early decision is binding, if you can't afford it, you can just say, I can't afford it, and there's really nothing they can do. So it isn't really binding. They tell you it's binding, but it's not really binding. And the problem is, and I had this problem with my son, who applied early decision to his school because he loved it. He was sure he wanted to go there. I didn't know all this stuff at that point, and he got in, and he didn't apply to any other school because he said, "This is where I'm going," and he did not get money from that school. So luckily, of course, I'm a financial planner. I started a college fund for him when he was born, and he had plenty of money. So, but it would have been nice to get a discount. The budget question about deciding how much before you apply, how much you can provide. So this is important. The parents have their income. Most people don't have a lot of extra income. People, no matter how much money you make, you're probably spending it. But if you're going to apply some of your income towards college, you need to figure that out ahead of time. Create a budget. So let's do a little case study. We have Malcolm Morris. Parents are John and Esther. John makes $120,000 a year. Esther makes $25,000. They have home equity of $250,000. They also have $100,000 of savings and investment and $300,000 in retirement accounts. So Malcolm is a high school senior next year, so current junior, and sister Ann is going to be in the class of 2025. Malcolm has a 3.95%, sorry, not percent, GPA. He did take the ACT and got a 34 on it. And Malcolm wants to study English. So let's this is the output of the software we use at College Money Match. You have full access to this when you're a client, but this shows some interesting things. So these are the colleges that that Malcolm is interested in. Sorry for New York folks, but Malcolm is a New Jersey resident, so we picked some New Jersey public schools in here, like the College of New Jersey. And we also picked Bergen Community College. So the cost of attendance, you can see that in the column. That's published by the school, although we've inflated it slightly because they only publish the current costs. And Malcolm, of course, isn't going today. He's going in 2023. So the next column is the expected family contribution. So this is the output of the financial aid process. But in this case, it's a forecast, not actual. And when there's an F there, those are FAFSA schools. So Marist, for instance, even though Marist is a private college, it is a FAFSA school. Gettysburg College, which is another private college, uses the institutional method, that's the I, and then the College of New Jersey as a public school uses the FAFSA method, and Alabama is an out-of-state public school, so is Delaware, and University of Rochester uses the institutional method. And so the cost of attendance minus the EFC is the need. So very simple. And the next column is the needs-based grant. So this is how much each school is predicted to provide in terms of needs-based aid. So Brown is an Ivy. Remember, they meet 100% of need. It's a very expensive school, but they're going to provide the highest amount. Now, of course, Malcolm, very smart kid, but he may very well not get into Brown. If he does get into Brown, Brown is actually a relative bargain for him. Gettysburg College is providing a lot of money. So is Marist. You'll see, though, that even though there is some need in the College of New Jersey, they're not providing any needs-based grant. The next column is the merit scholarship column, and some of these schools provide merit scholarships. Typically, a student does not get the needs-based grant and the merit scholarship. They get one or the other, whichever one is greater. So our prediction for the first year cost is based on that. Malcolm's, he's a smart kid. No merit at Brown, but he's getting $28,000 at the University of Alabama. So I've circled the University of Alabama. That is actually the biggest bargain. And one of the reasons might be that he's going to an out-of-state college that's not that popular with Northeast kids. So, if that's his choice, that's what we're predicting he's going to pay the least. And the most is going to be, interestingly enough, at Marist. Marist is actually a great school, and it used to be known for being a little bit cheaper than some of the other private colleges. But this is not the case for Malcolm, or at least not the prediction. So I still wouldn't say don't apply, particularly if you really like Marist. But what I would say is, okay, apply to Marist, and then maybe we can use, for instance, Gettysburg to get a little bit more money out of Marist. So the other thing our software does is it, once you create your budget and you look at the possible loans you might have to take, we compare a predictive salary. So this is a humanities graduate. The year one salary in that third column is for humanities graduates at all of these colleges. They're supposed to be tracking this. So this is information from the colleges. And if a loan is paid off in 10 years, we take a look at what the payment might be, and then compare that to the monthly take-home pay for this English major, and we come up with an affordability profile. Now, interestingly enough, I used community college in here, and one of the reasons I did is because one great option that saves a lot of money is going the first 2 years to a community college and commuting from home. Much, much cheaper. You take your core courses at the community college, transfer into the 4-year school. Your employer is going to care where you graduated from, and you will have saved a lot of money. I know a number of students who have done this, and it can be extremely successful. But if not, the other choice here that is, Brown, great choice, but unlikely to get in. Doesn't mean you shouldn't apply, but maybe the University of Alabama is a good option. One more case study, Clifford Clinton. So I'll try to do this a little bit quicker. These parents make a lot more money. They're also willing to provide $2,000 a month to pay for college. There's no needs-based aid issue here at all. They have home equity. They have a little bit of savings and investments, and quite a lot in retirement accounts. Cliff is also very smart. He happened to take the SAT, got a 1575. Cliff wants to study engineering. So here's his list of schools. He's looking at Drexel, MIT, Purdue, RPI. I happen to have gone to RPI, RIT, Stanford, Stevens, and University of Buffalo. So University of Buffalo is a SUNY school. Cliff is a New York resident, but that doesn't matter for the needs-based aid because he definitely is not eligible for any. You'll see that the expected family contribution column, the third column, is pretty high. And Cliff has gotten some merit scholarship, however. And when we look at the last column, the first year net cost, we see that the University of Buffalo SUNY school is the least expensive. That's a great bargain there. If we're looking at the school a little further away, Purdue, which is an excellent engineering school, that's only slightly higher per year. And then, RPI, Rochester, those schools, even though they provided some pretty decent merit scholarship, they're still pretty expensive. So you have to figure out where that money is going to come from. The good news is that engineering graduates make a bit more money. So when we look at the first year salary and what the loans are that he might have to take, the affordability profile, which is the last column, is actually pretty good at a number of schools. So, he might have quite a few choices. He might be more comfortable taking out higher loans because as an engineering graduate, I'm afraid he's going to make more money. So I want to talk a little bit about these FAFSA changes that are coming. Right now, they're scheduled for 2024 to 2025 school year. They were in the CAA Act of 2021. So I'm listing them here, but the rules haven't been written yet. So first of all, nobody likes to be told what they are expected to contribute. So they're renaming expected family contribution to student aid index. It's the same thing. They just are changing the name so you don't get mad. The FAFSA form is going to be much shorter. It's going to be 36 questions instead of 100. I haven't seen the questions, but more data is going to be automatically entered from the tax return. I don't know what happens if the tax return is wrong or misleading, but at any rate, usually when forms are simpler, the questions that are left require more math to actually answer. So we'll see what this means. But the idea is it's supposed to be easier to fill out. I already mentioned about the situation for divorced or unmarried parents. But a big one is the last one, which is the discount for multiple children in college. So for FAFSA schools right now, your EFC is decreased when multiple students in the family are in college. And they are getting rid of that, which means that every student, no matter how many siblings are in college, is going to have the same EFC. This doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to other people in the industry. It's not the way the CSS schools do it. They do give you a discount, and I think they'll continue to. It will be a major impact. But so far, I guess because it's still going to be another year before the FAFSA that has this in it is filled out, there hasn't been any move to change it. This is in the act, so it's Congress that has to change it. If you don't like it, I would suggest contacting your representative in Congress and tell them this will be horrible for you because maybe you have multiple kids in college at the same time. I know a couple people I know somebody with triplets and I know somebody with quadruplets. So truly, fortunately, they're going to be out of school, but serious issue. So this was a great article that I saw last year. This young lady, very smart, she is going to go to Harvard. And she was getting a full ride at Harvard, which was needs-based aid. And but just getting into Harvard means she's very smart. And she got an outside scholarship from her high school, I guess, of $40,000. Very, very generous scholarship, and she turned it down. And the fact that she turned it down, she got this wonderful article in the paper. But I will point you to the box on the right, which is from the Harvard website, that points out that because Harvard is committed to affordability, our scholarships are designed to cover 100% of your demonstrated financial need. And the second bullet says, we factor in student employment and any outside awards you've received. So if this young lady had kept her $40,000 scholarship, she simply would have gotten $40,000 less from Harvard. It doesn't make any sense. And unfortunately, for other schools that are not giving the student a free ride, but maybe just giving some merit aid, some needs-based aid, that outside scholarship may reduce the needs-based aid. For some schools, it reduces the subsidized loans first. So that's sort of okay, except that you probably want that loan anyway. You're probably trying to fill a different gap. But you could switch that to an unsubsidized loan and it wouldn't make that much difference. But then it's going to affect the grants, and you don't want that. So that's a problem with accepting outside scholarships. People go crazy with scholarship search engines. We actually have one that's part of our service. But if you're getting needs-based aid, be very careful that the outside scholarship is not going to reduce the aid. So a little bit about the College Money Match service. I know this is going pretty long, but we are almost done, I promise. And then I'll get to some questions. So it's a combination of software and coaching. The software has a lot of detailed information about the most of the colleges in the U.S. and what kind of awards, both needs-based and merit, they provide. It helps you understand what aid is available per school before applying, and it is based on your students' actual academic information and your actual parent and student financial information, which all has to be entered in the tool. Of course, it'll have to be entered in the FAFSA anyway, so you're doing the work a little bit early. You get coaching from myself or Mike for expert guidance through the process, and we help you with budgeting to be confident you're going to pay for the whole or you're able to pay for the whole education. I mentioned the scholarship search. We help with appeals letters. We provide confidence knowing how the college is going to be paid for. We do offer the FAFSA or CSS fill-out assistance service. That is an extra cost, but especially the CSS can be quite complicated. This is just an example. It's probably too small to read, but when you get the slides, you'll be able to see it, of the home page showing all the different sections of the software. And I do want to mention a free giveaway. We have an ebook, Student Loans and Tax Breaks for College Education Expenses. There is a form to fill out on our website. Unfortunately, the current ebook is still last year's loan numbers. So we do have the updated numbers. They were in this presentation. And we are seeking to update the ebook, hopefully as soon as tomorrow. We're having a little trouble with our software, but as soon as we get that updated, that'll be integrated onto the website. You can always send us an email, or we'll see if you've signed up for the ebook, and then we can manually send you the updated one as soon as it's available. And we're also offering a demo and in-depth review of your favorite college. So we'll plug your favorite college into the software, and you can see what it looks like in terms of both merit and needs-based. Well, it's mainly merit aid that's provided on the website. As I said, needs-based is really formula-driven. A lot of other good information about the college as well. You can sign up by sending me an email, or again on our website, collegemoneymatch.com. Right now, there's the sign up pop up for this webinar we're in, but if you close that, you'll see the other information on the website. So now Q&A. So Francis is asking, how do you know which school uses which? Well, our software provides that information. Otherwise, I would just Google it. Frankly, they will tell you. And if you look at the financial aid section of their website and they tell you just to enter the FAFSA, then you know that they're only using the federal method. If they say enter the FAFSA and the CSS form, then you know that they are either going to be using the consensus or the institutional method. There is a list of consensus schools. Again, Google it and you'll see that list. So Oksana is asking, if the school gave 0 merit aid, can we bargain based on a merit offer from another school? And the answer is absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, I would check if you're expecting merit aid and that school didn't give you any merit aid. The first thing I would do is check whether the school didn't make a mistake. And that can happen. Situation that I know about, the parent did not fill out the FAFSA form, and in the application, the college asked if you would fill out the FAFSA form, and the student selected yes, that they would, and then they were expecting a merit aid offer. It never came. When they called the school, they said, "Oh, well, we were waiting for the FAFSA." Of course, the FAFSA is not supposed to affect the merit aid, but apparently they had checked that the FAFSA was going to be filled out, and it wasn't filled out, and so the merit aid never showed up. So if you didn't get merit aid, check why. And then, can you bargain? Yes, you can write an appeal letter. So if a comparable school is providing merit aid, there's an art to these letters. It's best in the student's voice, but you basically can say, we'd love to go to your school, but this other school has provided this merit aid and you have not, and we just can't afford it without some more money. And you see what happens, and oftentimes there is more money. I don't see any other questions, but if anybody has any, I'd be happy to answer them. And if you wish to contact me, if you have other questions that you want to have answered, please feel free to contact me. And I would love to show you the software, to talk to you about your student and talk to you about what they're looking at and what to watch out for, maybe some tips. So please arrange an appointment with me. Okay. I think one person was still typing, but my service cost is on the website, so I would tell you to go to collegemoneymatch.com. I will say that I feel that we will save you money. I can't tell you the service it costs $0, but we will definitely save you money. And that's the idea. That's why you'd be doing this, is you want to save money. So I will say good evening and thank you for attending, and I hope it was informative.